Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Atano Circus, and I'm back feeling slightly like Batman. Yeah, I had a cold or something, chest cold, something like that, hacking up a bunch of stuff. That doesn't matter. What does matter is this. Here we are, another episode of Welcome to Little War Game, and today, as we're on with Diag 1v1, I'm going to kind of follow up with my most recent video, which was, I believe, scaling players and openings. The basic idea was if you're a certain level player, you should consider a certain type of opening. These are the things you're looking for. Now, before we go into this, I'm going to go tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go into the specifics of each kind of common opening that happens now. And this is in version 3.31. So an addendum, a little note we should make is that these can change from patch to patch. These can change depending on anything that changes for the units involved, their cost, anything that makes them more or less effective. For that, for longevity purposes, the first video is a great resource for understanding things regardless of what kind of metagame or what patches or what notes or changes occur to the game. But for now, for version 3.31, having gone over this with a couple people, we're going to go talk about the various openings. Remember, our four categories are newer player, master of none, one trick, and optimizer. In that order, from bottom to top as you progress as a player. So, first thing we're going to talk about, one den. Building one wolf's den. That is the kind of build that we're going to go from optimizing on down, just so you get the sense, right? One den is kind of an optimizing player's way of playing. Lots of fast units, they can defend, they use workers to defend, they can scout with the barest amount of units and information. Ding, 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 ding. It's all the cutting corners an optimizing player wants. Right now, castle first, depending on what you do, can be the mark of an optimizing player, but people below them can use it as well. And that's really about it. The final realm of the optimizing player might be considered really cheesy or aggressive tactics, such as one base catapult drops, tower rushes with the watchtower upgrade, things of that nature. Now it's funny because the more skilled you are when you're doing a cheese, the more likely you are able to recover from it, but also the better your opponent is, and the more likely you'll be better playing a safer way. So let's say you're not an optimizing player, you're a one trick. Okay, you're one tier down. So builds you might use are castle first into a wolf's den opening. This is firmly in that second category. This isn't to say that you must be at this level to do it. Keep in mind when I talk about these things, if you are at this level, at a lower level, you can do the thing. If you're at a higher level, you can do the things of the lower level. It's to be expected. It's just not your favorite way to play, or perhaps isn't the way that you like to play, or this is the minimum requirements for you to do it. So castle first, and your first offensive unit producing building to be a wolf's den is something that at least a player who is at the one trick level can use. Really, that's just kind of that's about it. That's a really distinguishing things. Wolves, again, same requirements. You have to defend with catapults. You have to defend, not catapults. You have to defend with workers in your micro, and scout. Use a lot of information off of very little actual information to make something happen out of nothing effectively. Those are all important things to get done. So now we go down. What are the things that are realms of the master of none? The third player down. Well, once you're here, you can start doing things like castle first into barracks play. Very simple. Right now, the reason barracks play isn't as favored in version 3.31 is that barracks play has slower units, and they're just not that strong. They haven't really found a meta way to deal with how effective werewolves are. Some patches have come in that'll help a little bit with that, but in general, the werewolf is a huge consideration. Very hard to kill for barracks, but has the high hit points, has the DPS, doesn't require the babysitting, and therefore castle first into that is great for a master of none. Other things that are good for a master of none player. One barracks. So if you go 1 barracks into an expand or whatever else you do, that's considered a master of none level. Again, units don't require as much babysitting, and for some people who have unique skills in that, yes, your micro can make those units a little bit more effective. Maybe not as effective as you can make wolves, but still pretty effective. So now we go down the list. Oh, that's the sickness. I'm coming up from it. I'm not getting down with it, but that's the sickness right there. So now we go down to the realm of the newer player. Okay, so what are the things the newer player will do? Well, keep in mind, we already talked about castle first in general. You're going to want to be at least a master of none before you try and do it. It requires a lot of micro with your workers. And again, even if you're a master of none, if you're at that skill level, you'll want to make sure that you have some decent micro ability and that you can make things happen so you don't die in the early game. This is a little skirmish goes over here. And then we talked about 1 den for the optimizing player, 1 Rax for the person who is at the master of none level. Now for the newer player, remember, we want to encourage aggression. So for a newer player, you're going to want to consider the following. 2 den, building 2 wolves dens, and hopefully not coughing out your lungs, building 2 wolves dens, making a bunch of wolves and attacking. Great idea. Allows you to be aggressive, allows you to learn how to scout, mechanics of the game. Great thing. Is it going to work against an optimizing player? Not at this level. Having talked to some really good players, they say they respect each other's micro way too much in order to do a 2 den or 2 wolves den against one another, except as like a tricky one-off, but not as I'm relying on this because it's strong in its own right, So that's a consideration there. And then other things that a newer player, if this is you might want to do. 2 barracks, building 2 barracks before you expand, just making units and going and attacking. Barracks units are very strong, good DPS, high hit points. They're still effective regardless of how, you can control them to be a little bit better or you can miscontrol them to be a little bit worse, but they are what they are, if you will. Magic A is Magic A. Other things that a newer player can do. Now remember, we're going to get into the subject of cheese. So cheese is everything that's kind of not covered by here. So to cover it, if you start with the castle first, if you go 1 wolves den, 2 wolves den, 1 barracks, or 2 barracks, those are considered maybe not the standard, but a standard-ish way of playing. If you do something cheesy, which is like you make a wolves den and a workshop so that you attack with wolf catapult watchtower attacks or something like that, or you pull workers really early and you try to kill them with watchtowers in their base, or something a cheese kind of relies on them not scouting it, and even if they do scout it, hoping they don't find out to the absolute last minute. It requires a lot of awareness and understanding to be able to do that at a really high level. Cheese in general kind of defies description in this, even in version 3.31. As I said before, an optimizing player will be most capable of doing a move like that, but they will also be so skilled that perhaps a better use of their skill would be to attack in a different way or to do a more common opening. So again, there we go. That's it for version 3.31 right now. The one thing I haven't really considered, it could become more popular because catapults just got buffed. They can now kill workers in 2 shots. So loading up an airship, loading it over, and killing your opponent with their workers with 2 catapults is still kind of good. On 1 base or 2 base, I still consider that something that you must be at least a 1 trick. Not the optimizer, but the 1 trick, because it requires a lot of micro, a lot of macro, good decision making, and an emphasis on timing. You must be at least that level in order to make it work. And as Daz closes up this game here, I think I'm going to close up this video now. So thanks again for watching, and I hope I feel better next time.